confusing. Okay, so we're going to start talking about that here. We're going to talk a little bit about the characters within the induction. This is something you do not have to take notes on or worry about. We will get familiar with this enough that you'll kind of know this stuff, but this is just to kind of give you an overview and help you see how that topsy-turvy element happens here. So in the induction, you're going to see a lord. He's not named, he's just called a lord, so he's some kind of royalty, high class citizen, and he pretends to be a servant. You're also going to see Sly, who is literally described as a drunkard, so he is a very poor, drunk, maybe not complete homeless, but basically homeless man, and he's tricked by the Lord. That's partly why the Lord is pretending to be the servant, and he's tricked into thinking that he is a lord. So they're trying to make it seem like he is higher class than what he is. You're going to see the page of the Lord, which is just a very specific type of servant. So the servant of the Lord, who is commanded to play a lady who's Sly's wife. So he's pretending to be Sly's wife while they're tricking Sly into being a lord. And then you're going to have some players, which are those traveling actors that I talked about before. They've traveled into this story, and they're going to be tricked into putting on a play for Sly. Tricked is kind of a maybe not necessarily true term there, but the Lord doesn't necessarily tell them the whole plan, but they're asked to come and put on a play for this Lord who doesn't know who he is. And so that's kind of what we've got, lots of trickery, lots of pretending to be things that you're not, kind of an idea happening even within that induction, starting us to get used to that idea before we get into the main part of the play, which is the Taming of the Shrew. So here is a list of all the characters, and these are just different pictures of how they've been played in different renditions and different things. We're going to go more specifically into these. I'm not going to get into it right here. So we have two fathers, actually, Baptista and Vincentio. They represent that older generation. Baptista is a father to two girls, Bianca and Catherine. They're some of our main characters. And Vincentio is a father to Lucentio, his son. And those are, kind of our younger generation group. Bianca is this apparently pretty amazing woman, and she has three men who are in love with her and are trying to win her affections. You've got Gremio, who is an older man trying to go after her. You have Hortensio, who is just another kind of young man trying to make his way into the life of this young woman. And then you have Lucentio, and he shows up and decides he also wants to be a part of this contest for Bianca's love. Hortensio is friends with a man named Petruchio, which I already kind of talked about here. But he and Petruchio are supposed friends, and Hortensio introduces Petruchio to Catherine. And Petruchio wants Catherine. Notice that it's not that he's in love with her, but that he wants her. There's some specific wording there, and we'll talk about that as we get into the play. Petruchio has a servant named Grumio. Hortensio pretends to be a tutor named Litio, and he teaches or tutors Bianca and Catherine. Lucentio does the same thing. He pretends to be a tutor named Cambio, and he is supposed to be a tutor for Catherine and Bianca as well. And they do this for a very specific reason, but they're disguised and dressed up as these teacher-tutor kind of people. Lucentio actually has two servants with him. He has Tranio and Biondolo. Tranio pretends to be Lucentio as part of the plan that they come up with, but then that makes him also pretend to be the master of Biondolo. And Tranio tricks a pedant, a rich merchant guy, into pretending to be Vincentio, which is kind of a very clever, very odd thing to have happen, but they need to have a pretend Vincentio, and so Tranio tricks this guy into doing that for them. So you can see, I know this gets really messy. Again, don't worry about making sure you know everything ahead of time, but you can see it gets really messy, and people are pretending to be others that they're not, and you've got people vying for affection in this sense and then decide not to, and anyway, there's lots of things going on. So it's okay if it gets a little confusing. You just need to be able to ask questions. But hopefully that gets you kind of thinking about some of the ideas, the main topics and themes that we'll be covering. A lot of this is dealing with men and women's place in society, the older generation versus the newer generation, as well as rich and poor, master and servant, those kinds of relationships. And we'll be looking a lot at characters for this.